Have you gone to the kitchen sink, turned the water on, and suddenly you realize it's just the water is flowing, but it's flowing very slowly, and you've already cleaned the aerator, a little thingummy out on the bottom. You've unscrewed it from the faucet, knocked it out, made sure it was good and clean, etc. And then you have, and especially an older home, not necessarily newer homes. Newer homes should be more up to date, but that's not always engraved in stone either. But if you have low water pressure and you go under your house and you start tracing the main water line, and you see a pipe that looks similar to this coming up, and it's about this diameter here, and you may wonder, well, I was expecting to see something a little bit bigger. And it depends on your neighborhood. Different neighborhoods have different water pressures from neighborhood to neighborhood. For instance, one neighborhood may have, say, 60 pounds of water pressure. Another neighborhood may have 80 pounds. Another pressure may have 120 pounds. And this varies from utility companies to utility companies. So, it's not a one-size-fits-all. More pressure is better than not enough. If you have more pressure, then you can put a pressure-reducing valve on it and bump it down. But say if one used a half-inch pipe, and many times I have seen it type L or type M, and I'm not certain that this pipe is even supposed to be buried. And then they use a half-inch. Well, you say, well, it's not going to make that much difference. Well, you start at the meter and you come in X amount of feet, and you keep traveling X amount of feet till you get to your house. And then to add insult to injury, if it's a 2-story house, then you have to climb, and then you start branching off. So over the farther distance you travel down this pipe, you may have friction loss. So friction loss could inhibit it. Now, if you have high water pressure, that could give you higher water pressure, and you may be able to get by with it. And sometimes people get by with it for years, and sometimes people get by with it for years, but yet they're not satisfied. They're thinking, well, if I had a little bit more pressure. So you need at least a 3/4 inch on the average residential home. This is half-inch, but I have seen this in homes where perhaps they come up and use half-inch pipe. And oftentimes this could be a do-it-yourselfer. This may not be a plumber, but it's hard to say. And then you come underneath the driveway, make an elbow, make a turn, etc. in the wall, and you keep traveling. So then the friction loss, and by the time you get to the particular unit, say the bathroom sink or the kitchen sink, and you turn the water on, well, yeah, the water flows, but it's just not the pressure that you were looking for. So at this point, one may need to consider having a new main water line put in to bump to get it, because there are 2 things one needs to have, and one needs X amount of gallons per minute, and one needs PSI, pounds per square inch, I think. And the PSI is a lot of times gauged by your sometimes your street pressure, and your street pressure, and the homeowner has no control of the street pressure. But if the street pressure is high, one can put a pressure reducing valve on the street pressure and reduce the pressure reducing valve. If the pressure is low, now they make a thing called a booster pump. Never put one on. From my understanding, I'm not sure exactly how they work, but I've never had to use one, and I've been to many houses. But that's a video for a different day. But notwithstanding, make sure that you have a 3/4 inch pipe. Make sure that you have a pipe that looks on the diameter that looks something along this lines, not along this lines. And the underground pipe should be the type K copper, this particular copper here. But that doesn't, the type K copper is just about become passe. So now what is used is PEX pipe, and PEX pipe is wonderful in my opinion. And so, but just make sure you use a 3/4. Even if you use 1/2 inch on a PEX pipe, say for instance this is 3/4, this is 1/2 inch, you can see the difference. You're going to get more volume out of the 3/4. Now if your home is way far away from the street, you may have to upsize it to 1 inch or even larger to make sure that you get the proper gallons per minute. But as a general rule, the average residential home, a 3/4 inch main line should be sufficient. But you know, that's not a one size fits all. That depends on the home, how far away from the meter you are, how much water pressure you have, etc. Thank you for watching.